Let's begin the session with a prayer of Shanti Mantra.
Right.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunattu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Offering my reverential pranams at the lotus feet of Sadguru Sri Madhusudan Sai, founder of Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence. Respected board members, teachers, and all my dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you all for yet another session on the platform of Words of Wisdom. I am Aditi MJ, pursuing my final year master's in English literature at this esteemed university. Today, we are honored to have a distinguished academician and author among us whose profound knowledge and scholarly contribution have significantly enriched the world of literature. Dr. Alka Singh is with us. Ma'am, we heartily welcome you for the session.
Thank you.
Ma'am, to give you a glimpse of our university, Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence is a state private university located in the district of Kalaburgi in the state of Karnataka. The approach adopted by the university is to bestow higher education upon those students who are left behind on the economic ladder or kept away from accessing of higher education due to physical distance, social norms, or simply for reasons that compel young students to pursue employment after their schooling. Ma'am, I'm also delighted to share the empowering initiatives for women taking place at our institution through education. Our master and inspiration, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai
Sri
Baba,
Satya Sai.
chose to establish a women's college as his very first educational institution way back in 1968. Taking that legacy forward, Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai has established 28 educational campuses, out of which 8 campuses are exclusively for girls, including 2 campuses in the state of Tamil Nadu and Telangana. And remaining campuses are in Karnataka and also a university campus for girls, with overall 1,000 girls being educated totally free of cost. These campuses are situated in rural areas with fully residential facilities that boast modern infrastructure and qualified female staff, ensuring a seamless transition from secondary school to university education. Our initiative addresses social issues such as early marriage, child labor, trafficking, and exploitation. By investing in a girl child education, we not only break the cycle of poverty, but also a witness in a radical shift in perspectives with families and communities. The stipend provided by the institution during internship and post graduation further supports their journey towards independence. Today, numerous girls like me have benefited from this holy institution and we are grateful and ready to serve society, extending a helping hand to those in need as we were. Joining hands in this endeavor ensures a win-win situation for the child, the family, and collective community. The university strives to bring about individual, academic, institution, faculty, research, and more importantly, spiritual excellence in all that it does. Today, I am also privileged to provide a brief overview of Professor Alka Singh. She is currently the principal and professor of English at Vasanta College for Women, Rajghat, Varanasi, which was then established by Dr. Annie Besant in the year 1913. With a teaching experience of more than 4 decades, she holds her MA, B.Ed, and PhD. Additionally, she possesses a postgraduate diploma and certificate in the teaching of English. Professor Singh's expertise in general and sublateral studies, British literature, Indian writing in English, and contemporary literature in English. Her major publications include Margaret Dable's novels, Narrative of Identity, Contemporary Issues of Identity, and a collection of short stories in Hindi and English. She is external member of the Internal Complaints Committee at Tata Consultancy Services Varanasi and serves as the chairperson of Internal Committee at Rajashri School of Management and Technology, Varanasi. Currently, she has been nominated as a member of Executive Committee for the Asian African Association for Women, Gender and Sexuality in Sri Lanka. She is a recipient of various awards for academic excellence, social services, and education, including the Young Excellence Achievers Award. She has been a national player in basketball and represented the state in hockey. Her remarkable literacy acumen and humanitarian outlook are truly ennobling. Today, Professor Alka Singh will be addressing us on the topic Empowering Through Education, the Impact of Women's Education on Society. Ma'am, over to you.
Uh, I am audible to you. Uh, yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. So, Sairam to each one of you there. And thank you, Aditi, for a very warm welcome on this forum. I am humbled to be speaking to the students of a university that have such a rich legacy with them that it perplexes me as to which lane should I take in order to bring forth what I want to share with you. But as I would like to speak on empowering through education, and in particular, the girls in the country, becomes important for me. So now, as the forum is named as Words of Wisdom, to be very frank with you, let me at the outset tell you that this university, it's okay, this university, which is dealing with the very criteria of such an ennobling human growth of each and every person, that what I wish to share with you will be simply certain areas which I am looking into while I look after a women's college in Varanasi in Kashi. As I have gathered that in Gulbarga, this rich Sri Sathya University deals with knowledge at both the levels of Paravigya and Aparavigya, where they are dealing with you through material richness of knowledge and going on to the philosophical strength of the inner self. Education can be both formal as well as informal, and it is very essential that while we take our degrees to equip us to move into the outside world, the inner self needs to grow at each moment of life, bringing in the concept of humanness in order to become, first, a good human being. And once that sets in, automatically you can work for the society where education becomes the wheels to take you forward. It is a light that takes us forward. Is my presentation visible to you? Is my presentation visible to all of you? Hello? Is my presentation visible to you?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Education, it's visible. Thank you. Uh, Now, looking at education, it is not about educating a particular class, a particular caste, or particular gender. Education is essential for each and every living human being because, as a whole, education brings about a certain kind of empowerment that gives you the strength to move into the outer world, which reflects the personal self. It also, the economic opportunities that it gives us, brings about self sustenance rather than looking up to others. In today's time, the 21st century, and on a global platform, it is also a via media for our mobility into society, looking at problems, solving them, the personal fulfillment, and the minute these criteria set in, automatically you lend a hand to the development of the community as well. So, overall, if I look at it, the entire process of education is innovative, and it is also a media for cultural preservation that we look at. Now, the institution that I'm working in, which works under the umbrella of Jiddu Krishnamurti, who was the adopted son of Dr. Annie Besant, talks about why should there be a difference in the genders. These differences are man-made. We have created these differences in terms of that the minute we look at a man, there are certain criteria that we look at because we find them very overbearing, a little aggressive, dominating. And the females, on the other hand, which we refer to as submission, and in a patriarchal world, it is then in totality looked at as exploitation. But this is not exactly the difference between a man and a woman. There are some natural differences which have to occur between the two, men and women, but they lead to certain qualities which each sex preserves as its own, which in terms of submissiveness is actually gentleness. So there has to be, Krishnamurti says that there has to be a very beautiful relationship between the two, the female and the male. And when this is in harmony with each other, automatically you drop those barriers of being a man or a woman. So when we look at education, I think we should look at it in a holistic manner, because when I'm teaching or when I'm talking to you, it's not that I am looking at the fact that my audience is either male or female. It is a group of people which is in harmony with each other. And because of this harmony, obviously, there is no conflict. So, this conflict which is created is basically man made in terms of our understanding. Indira Gandhi, a prominent woman leader of our country, said that education is a liberating force. And in our age, it is also a democratizing force, cutting across the barriers of caste, class, smoothing out inequalities imposed by birth and other circumstances. We have to have an egalitarian attitude towards one and all in order to be understood as a properly educated human being. Further, a proverb that comes from Africa, which I think all of you must have heard, which says that if you educate a man, you are educating an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a whole family. And I think that each one of us sitting here understand the value of this proverb, wherein a woman is a caretaker of a family at large. So obviously, whether she has received a formal education or not, depending on her circumstances, nonetheless, she is able, or she is rather capable of doing this by educating the entire family to look at a growth that is in harmony with human beings, that is our society, the ecosystem, and the environment. While I sit here and talk to you, and as you understand that I have received a formal education, and I am, if within double quotes, a so-called educated woman, but be, behind this educated woman stands a woman who may not have received formal education in her life, but it is because of my mother that today I am in this status. She may have been in a conservative family. She may have been in a patriarchal societal tied up by norms, but she had the courage and the understanding of an educated being that each of us needs to be educated. So, the very importance of the woman being educated goes beyond words. And I think all of us will acknowledge this, that no matter what we are doing, our family is responsible, wherein the mother or any figure in the form of a mother plays a very vital role in our life. And referring to the women's education, the learning opportunities needs to be enhanced in every field. And it is this where you are sitting that you are doing for all those people who probably found themselves on the margin and were not able to acquire skills or confidence to be socially, economically, and politically equipped. But once you pass out from your university, from your college at Kulbarga, you will be strong people who will be able to take not only care of yourself, but of anyone and everyone that's in your vicinity, and even beyond that, because you are looking at a larger chunk of humanity in trying to bring about goodness and education for others as well. We all need to understand, because I'm actually talking about education and all, but because I'm focusing on women's education, so we will be talking in reference to women's education, why it is so important. This education equips us, which breaks any kind of barriers that are created by man. No barrier has been created by the universe. It is our understanding and our thinking that makes it so. Because, see, if you are in a submissive role, it is because you are giving the other person a chance to dominate you. You make the person understand that the he or whoever it may be is far more important and the caretaker rather than what you are doing. So the psyche within needs to be uplifted. This psyche can be changed over a period of time, which comes in through education, which brings about social mobility and an economic empowerment, which is a direct connection with development in the very thought processes of the women. This also leads to health and well being, and on all areas, taking care of the people around us. The barriers which are faced by us is access to education. And I'm sure that most of you out there do understand the good work that the university is doing by providing this kind of education, immaterial of any kind of disparities that have been probably created elsewhere in the educational world. The cultural and the social barriers break down through these expectations when it comes to women's education. The economic constraints, the financial limitations hindering educational pursuits. Because whenever we see that there is an economic constraint in a family, the education of the girl child suffers. So, if the women themselves are economically strong, they will be in a better position to be able to handle it. It is also a part of each individual to put in an effort to bring about this upliftment, but it is not only in our country, but it is all over the world. And we can see some, I have listed, not all, global initiatives for women education. One is UNESCO, which I think you should be aware of, which leads to education. The Malala Fund, I'm sure this name is not the first time then you are hearing, who advocated for girls' education worldwide, fought for her rights, stood by, and faced a lot of trouble in trying to speak the truth, to be able to stand on her own, and to help many women like her to gain education. Also, the Sustainable Development Goal, that is ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education for all. So earlier, if we looked at, education could have been part of the elite society. But at the present moment, where universities like yours or college like ours, or the vision of Madan Mohan Malviya ji, which looked at the establishment of three women's college across the city to help girl child to be educated, to find a place, to reach easily, which is spread out in the city. This vision goes back nearly a century. And the emancipation, as you can see, was then also. And while I look at Malviya ji, the bearers of the Satsai University, Krishnamurti, all of them, they are men, but they understand because of their humanness, of their humanity, where they know that if the women in a society are educated, by and large, the society is going to progress. So it is not something, a new concept in today's time. It's just that we need to look into this a little more deeply to be able to understand that the firm roots that were there for education even in the past with the vision of our ancestors must be carried forward through proper education. And when we look at this, we need to look at certain success stories of women who have always been there from times immemorial. Today, we are looking in the 21st century and we are still struggling with the education of the girl child. It is not that education was not there. Today, what we are struggling with is that we are struggling for education of all, at all strata of living. We are looking for education. So, what is happening is that the entire mass we are looking at, and therefore, those who were somewhere left behind have been taken into consideration. Here, in this case, if I further go into my slide, we will find that women were always there as scholars since early Vedic era. And further, I will highlight some stories which will help you to understand how they overcame and to meet these educational challenges. And with this, there was a total transformative impact on education, on their lives and communities. Not only were they educated, in today's time also, when I talk to my children, to my students, very many times I see that they feel that the women have been missing from the class of the a superior being in the form of rishis, which were kind of enlightened people. But if we look at the Rig Veda, you will find all these characters, whether it is Lopamudra, Pala, Kadru, all of them, they found a place among the leading rishis of their time. So this goes back to Vedic times, and today we are still struggling to establish ourselves on certain platforms which are still being opened for women. Philosophy, a subject, doesn't find many philosophers being named in the present times. But when I go back to the ancient times, I'm sure that at least you must have heard at least one or two names of these philosophers that led the way to women emancipation in their own bearings of thought and actions. Gargi, Akka Mahadevi, Chandra Prabhati, any one of them. No, I take it. When you look at Gargi, now Gargi was an ancient Indian sage and a philosopher. She is honored and till date reckoned as someone who is a great natural philosopher and an expounder of Vedas. And also, she was known to be possessed with the knowledge of the Brahma Vidya. These are one or two examples which I have just taken to help you understand that the way we talk of women's education today, it appears that the women were not educated in the past or did not find a place for themselves. But here we are going back to the 12th century, to the 10th century, to be looking at women who have made a place for themselves. It's just that their stories need to be told to younger generation to help them understand how these women have reached the place of status, of understanding, of enlightenment through their works. Akka Mahadevi was known by many other names, and she has written many poems. You know, Akka is in South, as we all know, refers to the elder sister. So here also, but she has many other names, and her very persona is inspirational for all women in Kannada literature when we look at it. And she is also supposed to be an enlightened woman who took God Shiva to be her husband and continued to worship in the form of devotion. This is another character, Laleshwari, also known as Lalde, and many other names, wherein you can find all the roles, all the names that have been given while I was looking at it. And in the Kashmiri language, she came out to be such an important woman who spoke into the Hindu philosophy. And up to date, all the roles that a woman can play, names have been given to her, which mean mother, sister, grandmother, all in way how she was able to deal with all her relationship and in such magnificence, holding such important ad. This is again, I think, which we all need to remind ourselves. You know, children, we talk of the Constitution, we read the Constitution as a part of a course, and we leave it to that. But I think we need to understand that at that time, when the Constitution was made or the assembly was formed, what was the mission behind it? The mission was where it gave space and importance to each and every individual in the country. Here you will see a picture of around 11 ladies, and these women were members of the Constituent Assembly of India way back in 1946 to 1950. And in today's world, with the present government, we are finding, passing bills to bring women to a platform, to give them recognition. Somewhere down the line, despite our education, there has been a decline in the thought processes which needs to be revived, relived to understand the importance of each and every human being in their particular role. Although there were actually 15 members, if when I was looking at the history, but only 11 of them joined. And why? Because two of them, they resigned. Even Vijay Lakshmi, she was to become India's ambassador to Soviet Russia. So she was and Sarojini Naidu had passed away by then. So 11 of them joined the assembly in 46 to 50. Now, coming to the success stories, Savitribai Phule is one name that should be known to each and every person of the country. Where a quotation we have taken, education is the key to unlock your mind and it empowers you to do something with your life. You see, education in itself doesn't lead anywhere. It is the understanding which is brought about through formal and informal education, and when learning is happening at every point of time in your life, whether you are sitting in a classroom or not. So she was a reformer, social reformer, an educationist, and a poet from Maharashtra. She was, and we see this, that she was strongly supported by her husband, Jyotiba Phule. and she played a very vital role in bringing about women's rights in India. She is one of the leading pioneers of Indian feminist movement, and she has done everything possible within her reach to facilitate women's education. She has talked in one of her poems, Go Get Education, which was very, very important and very importantly thought of. Now, here is another lady, Gohar Jan. She was a secular woman. Most of the artists, they are usually secular. And we talk in our country of being a secular country. But the prevalence of this divide, which comes in the names of caste, class, or gender, needs to be done away from within. Now, look at this. These people who were living in those times, and they had such a strong mind of their own. And she is truly secular, which you can see, which says her history says that her grandmother was a Hindu, father was a Christian, and she and her mother were known as Muslims, but they got converted after her parents' divorce. But she came out to be a singer. And despite the kind of different religions and the prevalence of those religions in her family, she has sung lots of songs on Lord Krishna. She was brave. Yeah. And she kind of defied all those norms which she felt that they should not be in practice. And at that time, when she was singing, it was believed that if you would sing or get your voice recorded for the gramophone, you would not be successful. And she was one of the first singers of India to go on to it. Now, this is a contemporary example of a woman that stands before us, Malala Yousafzai. She is an international symbol fighting for girls, and she has faced a lot of problems, lot of opposition due to the Taliban restrictions on women education in her country, that was Pakistan. But she fought against it, wrote a blog. She used to write a blog first under a pseudonym so that her identity would not be revealed. But now, of course, she writes fearlessly, and both, I think her father needs to be given credit here, who supported her in all her endeavors to bring out the right to education for girls in her country and fighting the movement of Taliban. She says, if we want to achieve our goal, then let us empower ourselves with the weapon of knowledge and let us shield ourselves with unity and togetherness. Two very important concepts that she has talked about here is empowerment through knowledge which comes through education, which is formal and informal. And also, once you are empowered with this helps you to understand the strength of unity and togetherness. In being one, all barriers, all borders must be lost into oneness, and then only can there be peace in the world. So here, it's girls everywhere, and each girl has a right to education. If I look at female leaders in different fields, all these names, there are some of them, they are not, and right beginning from the 19th century coming up right now, Annie Besant, Begum Zafar Ali, Sarojini Naidu, Indira Gandhi, Kalpana Chawla, Kiran Bedi, our president, Sushma Swaraj, a fearless speaker, and now a woman in finance in the present government, Mary Kom in sports, and there are names which are beyond documentation. The only thing is that we need to understand and bring this understanding into our children, into our families, that it is all about that inner strength. It is not about flag march. It is not about getting onto the roads and trying to create a chaos in the society. It is about building up one's own positive psyche. And while we are talking of women's education, it is very pertinent to speak here that it is the men that need to be educated in a way which will bring about a transformation in the psyche, in the understanding of the biases that have been created and are based on genders. Once every mother, every sister in the family helps their brother, father, uncle, cousins to understand what it is about being human and losing that barrier between men and women, and to be talking at an equal level of understanding and assimilating what is correct and rejecting what is wrong, I think there will be a total revamping of the whole society, which will be true education in its true perspective. And this education has to come not from bookish knowledge, but it has to come from a kind of awareness which is beyond books. But books are important, formal education is important to be able to sustain yourself. And in today's world of 21st century, online education also is extremely important, which I think every college, every university is trying to bring it to the doorstep of every child to bridge this divide and to be able to allow each child to access the educational resources which are found on online or through e-learning. The only problem is that there again we find that, or we rather allow the men to dominate, keeping it in a way that maybe the women are not as fast learners or who can be able to equip themselves in a better way. But this is only a psyche that is without. An internal understanding will help you understand this is not the case. It is varies from individual to individual, and each person has that capability of being able to stand in a place which she truly deserves. Now, there are lots of government policies and legislations which are framed in order to ensure equal opportunities for all the sexes. If we look at NEP 2020, that talks not only between men and women, because now they are bringing the transgender students, that is, in totality, the education should be for all. The target which has been set is to meet across genders, across, across classes, and the resources be made equally available to all the groups, whichever they belong to the extent that the socially or the economically disadvantaged group should be given special emphasis and special importance to bring them to the level. And in this connection, we also had the G20, which talks about women empowerment, and this declaration in 23 on women-led development of G20 presidency became a torchbearer for progress of women empowerment worldwide. And it is very essential to understand that there were 6 international conferences and 86 virtual conferences led by 2 very strong women, chaired by them, Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, who is the managing director of the Apollo Hospital, and Dr. Sandhya Purecha, who's a Sangeet Natak Academy awardee. They chaired these sessions, and G20 has been again an opening for all women in all fields to be able to uh, economically, because you see, it is now understood that if women are economically weak, the country cannot rise to that level where it can defeat all kinds of problems in the society. Women are 50%, even could be more in the society. So it is essential that they should be economically independent, and they should also add to the economic development of a particular country. There are many other schemes which I'm sure from time to time, the kind of platform that you're in, you will be hearing about, which leads to the development of girls. These are some of them which I have noted down for you. Now, the challenges which are there with us is many, but what we need to, I think each one of us, we should be able to face the challenges, and rather than focusing on them, we should focus on how we can deal with those challenges, which will bring about a kind of betterment in the society in terms of awareness programs or policy reforms. So the future outlook can be far better if we look at it. That is what is now happening, that is the trend and opportunities in women's education and the potential impact of educated women on shaping the future of societies. Coming back to the founder of this college, Jiddu Krishnamurthy, who says education is not only learning from books, memorizing facts, but learning how to look, how to listen, and what the books are saying, whether they are saying something true or false. What he tries to emphasize that the learning must come from within rather than those rote learnings or memorizing of facts from the books that we have, because bookish knowledge for him was not the be all of one's life. Although we all understand the very importance of the degrees and where it places us in society, but then beyond that, there is a learning which I think each human being must know. He says that the real issue is the quality of our mind. There's always a conflict, and the conflict comes in to being when you find that the quality of a mind, not its knowledge, but the depth of the mind that meets the knowledge. See, the knowledge has been accumulated, the knowledge has been got from outside. Now it is for us as to how do we bring about a kind of harmony between the knowledge that we have acquired and the mind, which should be governed by the heart as well, which is infinite, should be able to assimilate that knowledge in its proper perspective. Then the energy which will be disseminated will be infinite. And he says that there is no end to an education. We can get our degrees, but the whole of life, from the moment you're born to the moment you die, is a process of learning. And I think we learn a lot from our life experiences when we talk to people, when we listen to people beyond our books, beyond our courses. And I think this is one such platform where you are acquainted with a variety of knowledge that comes into being through various people who are speaking to you. A very important thing he says is when you are human, you're not a woman or a man. Now, that's a very important statement made by him, because the distinction which we give between men and women all the time, where women are trying to be at par with men, fighting men, it's not that the women are trying to be better than men. We are in a world, in a society where we have to acknowledge each other. And when we look at each other just as a human being, then the very concept of man and woman does not come into being. As I'm talking to you, it's only your understanding of the fact that I am a woman, so you're looking at me as a woman. And only when you think that. But if you think beyond that, you will not be able to differentiate, because it is our thinking that makes us understand that this is a man or a woman beyond the sex. That is, you know, a man or a woman is consciousness, free of identity. And I think when we approach each other, this is how we should approach each other, beyond the understanding of which sex or caste or class. It's not only about men and women. This goes for class, this goes for caste. The minute you go beyond that, you are in harmony with life, with society at large. And to be associated with masculinity and femininity is to be able to see together, and hence we can see that both are just one. It is important that both men and women are required for sustaining a society, because none of us can stand in isolation. We need to be together, together as human beings. And if you are truly religious, if we are truly religious, I think you understand better than I can understand. What he is saying is a religious man must be both masculine and feminine. We have all the traits within us, and it is important to understand out here the outcome is that we have to understand that we are human beings. I have talked to you about the concept of trying to understand the importance of the education that is being imparted to you and to all the women of the world elsewhere. But actual emancipation, actual importance of our education will come into being where we will create a world which will be devoid of any kind of distinction, when we are able to take in together in a stride each and every one, along with nature, along with the flora and the fauna that exists with us. Once we do that, I think we can call ourselves truly educated in every way. And therefore, these kind of conversations, understanding is definitely conducted. And you are very fortunate to find a platform like this, where this is a sustained effort on all our parts to be able to promote a kind of equality and egalitarian society that I think each one of us are looking forward to. This is what I thought of sharing with you. So thank you so much for listening to me. But the talk would only be valid, or it can only be validated through your own psyche and through the construction of the psyche of the families that you belong to, where we understand humanity, where we understand love, compassion, and fearlessness, and the discipline comes from within and not from without. So we need to internalize that discipline to lead a life of acute discipline within ourselves, and then we can move out fearlessly into a world that has so many opportunities to offer to you and to me in totality. Thank you so much for being a patient listener. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You refer to so many ancient and contemporary women who walked out of their struggles and achieved their success. Truly was an eye-opening session to many of us. And even after, as you mentioned, after many centuries passed, the basic nature of human psychology remains unchanged. As you told, the only solution for all the problem is educating both men and women equally, and especially educating the men about women empowerment, and especially in the current era, and also adding the values to our education system. I'm sure each one of us have gained inspiration, and once again, uh, we have taken a step forward in recommitting ourselves to educate many more girls across the globe, we would say. Thank you so much for taking your time out and speaking with all of us.
I think I need to thank you. I need to thank the authority for having me here. It has been such a lovely session with you. And if there is anything I can do in future, I would be very happy to associate myself personally on a personal level with the university in doing a little good that I can work with. It will be a blessing for me from above. This conversation has been a blessing from the Sadguru, that I am here with you this morning. And I wish I could have spoken to the children. That would have been very nice. But then I'm looking forward to some kind of conversation sometime in future, if destiny permits. So thank you so much for having me. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure,
ma'am.
all right. Thank you.
Please do visit us to whichever campus you would love to, and especially the girls' campus here in the southern Karnataka. And we will surely welcome you, and we would really love to see you in person and have more conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We will end the session with Shanti Mantra.
Right.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryankaravavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you, ma'am.